We have Jennifer Teufel Schoenberger. I hope I said that right. I'm pretty close, right? Come on up. She is our third storyteller, fourth if you count Molly, the impromptu one. And if you, hopefully you have a program so you can find out all about her, but now you're going to really find out all about her. Okay, welcome.
Hey. So I was raised by wolves. I know what you're thinking, but there were 5 of them: Michael, David, Roger, Fred, and Nick. So I'm 6 of 7 children, and there's 5 boys, and then the oldest one is also a girl. But by the time I was, walking around, she was a lot older, and she wasn't interested in telling me how to be a woman. Like, I did not even know how to be a child, a girl child. When I was very young, my mom was a single mom with all these billions of children, so she was busy. And we lived in a very rural part of England, little tiny village. And, it was one of those types of places where, you leave the house after your porridge and the breakfast, and then you go play in the old barns and the fields. And so I was always with my pack of wolves, and they taught me how to speak boy fluently, right? So, I learned how to play games. I learned how to take the dare, even though you were frightened, go to the top of the barn and we're gonna put a bunch of straw and then you jump out. Jen, you're going first. So then we moved to California. Same deal, we were in a very rural place. The older siblings, start surfers and really that was where I was until the summer of when I was 11. And there was something very important about that summer. 3 things happened. The first thing, I got sent to sleepaway camp. And when you go to sleepaway camp, you live in these cabins with other girls. And I literally could not understand what they were talking about. I was like, do you speak English? Like, they had blow dryers and they feathered their hair. Even when we were going to archery, they're perfect, and they tie up their shirts and they're really cute. They're all 11 too, but they speak fluent girl. And so I kind of started mimicking them. I didn't know how inside they were, but I knew I was a girl, and this is part of it. You put feathers in your hair, and you tie up your shirt. Now, granted, because we all did it, we tied up our shirts. Granted, mine was a hand-me-down boy's shirt, because I gotta tell you, I lived looking like Peter Brady until I was 13, because it was all hand-me-downs. Anyway, so up at summer camp, I sort of got into it, and I started feeling a little bit like, oh, I want to learn this. The second thing was that my parents decided to send me to an all-girls school, very fancy all-girls school in Los Angeles. And you have to understand, my mom, also British, went to school at a place called Miss Edgar's and Miss Cramp's School for Young Ladies. I was not that kid. So, we all had to wear the little outfits and the uniforms, and, all of them, you would roll your skirt so it was very short, and then you would get in trouble, and they would make you kneel down, and it had to be within 2 inches of the floor, or they would French braid. I never learned how to French braid. I mean, this has basically been my hair since I was like 4. I can't do anything. I can watch it. And the final thing was I went and spent a couple of weeks at my grandma's house. I would always go to see Gran. She divided her time between England, this very small village, and she also had a place in, does that mean I have 5 minutes? Okay, thank you. She divided her time between Montreal and England, and I loved my grandmother. Now, my grandmother really put on this outside show of, I'm very proper, and she didn't move her teeth when she spoke to you. My mother learned how to speak that way as well. I did not. Anyway, so, Miss Edgar's Miss Cramps, where was I? Okay, so I'm at Gran's house, and I'm starting to become aware of, I guess I'm starting to become a teenager, right? And I'm aware that I don't look like, I'm not interested in the same stuff. And I had, after camp, 17 magazine and Tiger Beat, and y'all aren't old enough, but Tiger Beat was Sean Cassidy on the front. Oh my God. Anyway, so I was at her place, and I knew every inch of her house, but I started noticing things that I hadn't really seen before. One of the things was this portrait of my mom when she was about 16 or 17. She's wearing this, it's a painting. She's wearing this white dress, and then next to it is a black and white picture of her with a bunch of other girls also wearing these like big white dresses. And so I asked Grandma Jane about that, and she said, well, that was Mummy being presented. And I'm like, I don't know. What did she get presented as? Oh, she was presented to the Queen. So when I talk about Queen, you guys all know I'm talking about Queen Elizabeth II, yada, yada. So I'm like looking at this, and I'm like, I start thinking about my mom. My mom was almost 5 feet tall at her tallest. She was very tiny. She was a ballet dancer and an actress, and she was, sort of, like that. And she was very feminine, and she modeled even though she was so tiny, because they liked models who danced because they could, whatever. And so I started thinking about that, and I was going through all the pictures, and I started talking to my grandma about that. And she said, well, I heard there's going to be, I'm not going to do her voice anymore because it's exhausting. There's going to be a garden party with the Queen's mom. The Queen's mom is really important, or she was amazing. She was the mother of the Queen, and she also had been a queen in her own right when she was married to Queen Elizabeth II's dad. So she's the Queen mother, and she's badass. Anyway, we go there, and I'm sorry, she's cool. She was amazing. Anyway, so she says, we could go to the Queen's mom's garden party. Like at this time, I did not really know what a garden party was. I thought it's a party in the garden. And so she said, but we have to figure out what you can wear and stuff like this. And so we went into her closet, which was full of these things. But you remember how I said my mom was small? She was skosh under 5 feet. My grandmom was like 4'9". She was tiny, and she sort of pinned and made one of these things. I actually just totally put together 2 different times in my life. This was much later on, by the way. The second part happened when I was 16. Excuse me. Anyway, so in between, by the way, like my brother Fred, I went to him and I said, listen, all the girls at school say you have to shave your legs. And what? And he showed me how to shave, but he did it on his face. And he was telling me, like, you have to go up. And so all the way through junior high and much of high school, I shaved my legs, but only to here. So I basically walked around with bangs on my knees. Like, there's so many stories like that they really did raise me. And so, like I was saying, I was telling you about one year, I was 16 and I was at Grand's in England. And so she set us up to go to this place, but again, she said, oh, you're going to have to curtsy. Well, I had seen my mother curtsy, but it was like, for ballet curtsy. And that you take your leg out and you put it behind and you go way down. And I'm just not that person that looks like a ballerina at all times. And but she taught me, Grandma Jane taught me how to curtsy, and it's really simple. You just kind of put one there. Like that. Anyway, but so we got there. There's all these young women wearing their fancy stuff. They're all my age, and they all do the curtsy perfectly. And so I'm like, what am I doing here? And I realize, like, I can't do that. They each go up and they're like introduced, and they do this beautiful curtsy, and they've got these beautiful dresses, and I have a pinned, and I have my grandma's dress on, and she's this tall. So, and I was nervous and everything like that. And then after that happens, you are all going to go out on the lawn and have the garden party. So as everybody's walking up, they shake the hand of the Queen's mom and some other people, and then they go out. So I got there, and I was kind of mumbling, sorry, And she said to me, it's all right, dear. Just be patient with yourself. These girls have been training their whole lives how to act like this. You are a late bloomer, and you're going to be wonderful. Right? And I was like, I'm going to be wonderful. Anyway, so then I had two best friends that were guys, because that was what I was normally used to. But I started getting close friends with women. And I would emulate them and talk like them. But this was when I was internalizing it, and I realized I can be a girl and I can hang out with girls. And then as I got older and older, I got closer and closer friendships between women and I. And I gotta say, I love my dude friends. They are wonderful. And, but I have two of the women here that I mimicked. I did not end up being tall and blonde like them. But I moved here in Tucson, and I met this woman, Nikki. Anyway, and she was the strongest business person I knew, and she did it all in a way, she did it all in a way that was just beautiful, and she's still my friend. And then Camille taught me about how you can be a family person and be gracious and all of that. And this all came into me. And so now sometimes I have to mix it up, and actually just pretend like I know what I'm doing as a woman, because I don't read Tiger Beat or 17 magazine anymore. But it's for real inside of me. I don't have to act like anybody else, because just like she said, I learned to be patient with myself. And years later, after I had moved here, I called my mom. And I said to her, I told her the story of what had happened at Grandma Jane's house and what the Queen's mom said. And there was quiet on the other end of the phone. And then she says, Jennifer, one must always remember that everyone must make a poo.